am not saying that India will go automatically this way only after independence. Huh? 3 minutes. So I would say a lot of research has to be done in that direction regarding the conflict that Gandhi had, and you come to realize that he had the same kind of conflict which most of us faced. We start as idealists, but we ultimately start becoming cynical when you see that our friends have different agendas. But the point is, they always had that kind of agenda. Only Krishna comes mythological or who. He plays upon the greed and avarice of not only Duryodhana but of Yudhishthira also. And when this is the last meeting, you'll find it interesting. And ultimately Krishna goes to pursue Karna. For Karna to fight on the side of Duryodhana. You know what the complacence gives to Karna? He said, you'll get money, you'll get United Kingdom, all of them will worship you, and he looks at him. And you'll be able to bed with Draupadi also. You'll be able to bed with Draupadi also. Draupadi was considered the then most beautiful and attractive, attractive one, whatever you call that. Everybody was after, I don't know why. Anyway, so the point is, these are the raw materials of politics. Raw materials of politics. And I don't think Gandhi used them well, because himself was immune to it. Lincoln used that better, is my contention. Thank you.
After Pradeep, probably in this flow of things, Rinpoche's summary would be appropriate. I'll request other speakers to come in later. Is that okay, Subhashji, with you?
But you want it like that or little discussion?
As the house or the chair feels. If you have some,
No, you can
please
go
come in.
mechanically also.
No,
we can go with.
if you some,
Because Pradeep has raised
yeah.
very important question. And it is about truth and power. Power of truth or truth of power. And in the context of Gandhi, I think it needs to be further explored. I am not going into detail. The point is, Gandhi also used power. Vis-a-vis Subhash Chandra Bose. He did just as Sri Ramchandra used power. So what is that relationship between power and truth in such a context? See, we look at this relationship of power and truth as if it is the Lohiite fiction of being secular. I think Gandhi's relationship was also, truth power was secular. But to see Gandhian philosophy as non-secular is highly problematic. Just because God comes in, it doesn't become non-secular. The point is, I will short and I will finish it here, that in Mahabharata or even in Duryodhana and everything else, the relationship between truth and power is sought to be mediated through a sense of what you may call dharma, but a sense of what will really succeed in long term.
Succeed or larger
Succeed.
good?
Succeed.
Not larger good.
Not larger good. Both may be the same.
Okay.
At
But
times.
what depends on succeeds. I mean, I will just leave it at that because we need to explore further this relationship between truth and power. Now, Gandhi has used power. There is no doubt. He has used populist power. He has not used state power.
Okay. Professor Manthai wants to come.
Not really to comment. I want to raise one or two questions to Dilji, not to be answered right now, but also to the whole house. One question is, you said that those who do not adhere to dharma, the righteous method, succeed in politics, in power politics, and those who are righteous, they don't appear to succeed. I think that we have to really define or redefine what you mean by success and failure. When Gandhi talked about the apparent success of violence, Gandhi said that it may appear that violence succeeds, but it's a short-term or a short-lived success. When you look at it from a long-term perspective, from perspective of setting up an example, can you say that this is real success? So that's one question. So the second question is, what appears to be the apparent failure of Gandhi, including the question of partition. The very close associates of Gandhi kind of marginalized him, did not consult him even on the question of partition. But I think there is a great lesson for democracy in how Gandhi behaved. Even when he could have really led a movement, people wanted Gandhi to fast and lead a movement against partition. But Gandhi accepted partition because it was a majority decision accepted by the working committee and the Congress, and negotiated, among the top leaders, the trio, the so-called trio and all that. So Gandhi really accepted it. Because I think that that's a great lesson in democracy. Even in democracy, if democracy is to survive, succeed and survive, you'll have to make compromises. Sometimes hard compromises. And so I think that in some of the apparent, many of the suggestions that Gandhi gave, the national flag, for example. Gandhi wanted the tricolor with the charkha to be the national flag. It was rejected. And all those things. But he accepted it because in democracy, it is not essential that all your views are accepted by the majority, and what is accepted by the majority has to be kind of considered. So that's another point. And finally, the very important thing is that, Gandhi, he says that Gandhi has as an alternative, but not a method. He has not provided a method. And that set me to ask myself, which I'm thinking aloud, you look at Marxism. Did Marx give a method? Or did the method used by either Lenin or Mao were the methods suggested by Marx? If my understanding of Marxian praxis is acceptable, Marx said that there will be a revolution, a proletarian revolution, and and in the most industrialized countries there will be the implementation of the dictatorship of the proletariat. It did not happen. Revolutions happened in industrially backward countries because Lenin used a different method, Mao used a different method. So my question is, if there is an alternative in Gandhi, it is not essential that he should also provide a method. If you accept that there is an alternative, it is the duty of people who think that there is an alternative to evolve a method which is appropriate to the context in which we live and work for social change. Thank you.
Just one line, not to take much time. And if we have compared the unsuccess of Yudhishthir with the unsuccess of Gandhi, then I don't have any objection. And if you have Lincoln's success as something which is something reference, then I don't have any objection to you. Just I was thinking about this, that we have to be a little careful in placing Gandhi in a particular context, and Gandhi is to be seen in such a different way that, as he has said, that this we have to be very careful about putting this. And the success is something which is not always to be seen in the winning or losing or something like that. And Gandhi was unpowerful in the last phase of his life, and these things I think we have to be explored, as you have said, that I appreciate that we have to explore. Yes, that is.
Thank you. I'm very keen to make this this intervention to this very powerful point which Pradeep ji you were trying to say. Of course, Gandhi failed to prevent the partition, but I want to qualify that. Partition did not mean only division of India into India and Pakistan. Partition would also mean, which Gandhi prevented, the partition of the various parts of the country where Hindus and Muslims were living together. What Gandhi did on August 15 in Calcutta, Vijayaghatha, in that fast was to prevent the multiple partitions of the country between the Hindus and the Muslims in the length and breadth of India. That is not a failure of Gandhi. partition of Pakistan and India, yes, failed. What of that? Who could prevent that at that time with the history behind it? But I think it would be very unfair, not to Gandhi, to myself, to not to acknowledge that it was Gandhi's actions, and he put his life in the front in Calcutta. He was nearly killed. Why? Because he did not want the partition. Say in my village, in my town, it could have, so partition did not happen on the basis of religion. It happened on political considerations, and that is a success. The second point, here I am not very clear, so I am only asking a question to you. The first point I want to say, because everybody says Gandhi failed in partition. I am saying Gandhi succeeded in maintaining the secular fabric of India, minus that part which was partition. That is a great thing. Who could have done that? They were celebrating independence in Delhi. Gandhi was in Calcutta fasting with Sohrawardi, preventing the multiple partitions of the country. Don't say Gandhi failed in that moment. He succeeded. That's a crowning glory of his. And his assassination was the result of that. They recognized what Gandhi succeeded in doing it. They did not want it. It was not an individual action. So let us not say that Gandhi failed in that way. I think we have to be grateful to him, grateful to myself. About Lincoln succeeded, Gandhi failed. Of course, the comparison is very complicated. And Pradeepji, I would like you to react to that. You cannot say that Lincoln did not abolish. Lincoln was not for abolition. Lincoln prevented the spread of slavery from some states to the other. Of course, you are right. He stood for the Union. But he stood for the Union without the spreading of slavery from those southern states to the other states. And there is it's between him and Douglas. In the debate, he said, slavery is an evil. I cannot abolish it where it exists, but I can prevent it from spreading it to other areas. And that is what he stood for. These are minor things when we look at it, but that is just like the partition one. This is also, you cannot say that Lincoln was not for abolition. He said it is a moral evil, but it should not be allowed to grow. But he could not abolish it where it existed. That is the political question. Thank you.
Should we
Let him
I should thank for this very provocative presentation and kind of deconstructing the saint called Gandhi. I loved it. And you put it in the context of Mahabharata, which we do to the Indian ethics and dharma and all that. I see in the whole of Mahabharata the problem of means and end. Now Gandhi would, as I understand, I'm a student of Gandhi literature, and Indian philosophy, I think Gandhi would emphasize, to my knowledge, that means should be as pure as the end. Maybe to stretch my point further, let us take the example of Yudhishthira. He says one lie, Ashwatthama, the whole episode. If I were to put Gandhi in his place, would Gandhi ever say that Ashwatthama died? I don't think so. This is the problem I raised in the Indian Dharma. Would Gandhi ever say that Ashwatthama died? And because of that, the Guru is in a position and he is killed. So this is a problematic for me. How does one engage? So that is one thing. Second thing, I think, if I am not mistaken, after independence, Gandhi himself goes a little mentally upset. He says, I think it was, that's on that about also Gandhi himself. He says many times, "Mai kya karu?" And he says, "My andha tha." I don't know the article, maybe Professor Dhirubai can explain on that. He himself says, maybe what they call the blindness of spiritual insight. I was blind. My kya karu? Because as you very rightly pointed out, post-independence, Gandhian aroma seems to fade. And Gandhi himself, I think, realizes that, and he says, "My kya karu? What do I do? What do I do?" And he himself says, I think in his life, his relation to his son Harilal Gandhi, I think that gives us an insight into the whole problematic. I think he disowns his own son Harilal Gandhi in his relationship, and shown by the movie Gandhi My Father. So I don't know how to, as beautiful osmosis, how does one connect this? Does Harilal Gandhi, his picture gives some insight in this question of means and etc. Fine.
Yeah, anytime.
So perhaps it is just right that the text document which I have the honor to present here comes after all that discussion which has been going on. It is a very contemporary, recent statement by Samdang Rinpoche, who is a very prominent figure in the Tibetan Buddhist hierarchy and an avowed Gandhian in many contexts of Gandhian activities, also religious, like there was previously Swadhyay, religious movement of Bandurang Athavale. There also Rinpoche was very much involved in supporting that. So this present document is a note which Rinpoche sent for a conference at Sevagram, conference, or rather it was meant to be a brainstorming session of Sarvodaya leaders called Gandhi in Search of Roots. And Rinpoche seemed to be very much impressed by that urgency expressed in such formulation. He could not attend that conference. He was elsewhere at the time. It was in August last year, so just very recently, less than 1 year back. And it can be assumed that the views expressed and some assertions expressed in this document are presently held by Rinpoche. It is about the Gandhian alternative, or rather the Gandhi-inspired solution to the present, to the totality of present problems of the world. It is a solution proposed by a believer to a believers, and some kind of dogmatic it could be argued that there are no nice subtleties in his projection. There is very down to earth and extremely non-compromising statement. I mean, the main premise is that only Gandhi's teachings and Gandhi's truth can provide solution and provide salvation to the present world. And in that he makes, he first says some preconditions, which are quite again with some severity stated. So one precondition is that unless we have deep and unshakable faith in Gandhi's teachings, or our talk on this subject will remain futile. So that faith is the precondition, the absolute precondition, without which there is no debate on any Gandhian alternatives. Then he said that some people do argue that it is not right to adhere literally to everything which Gandhiji said many years ago. And had he been alive today, he might have not said those things or interpreted them in a different way. Here he refers to a well-known scholar whose name he does not take, is that Hind Swaraj in particular has been written at a specific historical moment and in a specific context, so it would be wrong to treat it as a blueprint for today's world. Then the Rinpoche says that I basically disagree with such contextualization of Gandhi's thought. I hold all Gandhi's statements, particularly all what is written in Swaraj, to be fully true, totally relevant today, and in no need of any corrections or updates. So that is one complete adherence to Gandhi's teachings. And the other part of it, the other precondition is, as he said, that if we fail to resist and reject, and then is modern civilization, capitalism, globalization, market-oriented economy, consumerism, the dominant development paradigm, existing model of parliamentary democracy, existing system of justice delivery. If we lack determination to oppose all this openly and unequivocally, then we cannot honestly search for Gandhian alternatives. And if we trip on just one small point, it will lead to compromises all along the line, and there will be no upholding of truth and non-violence. That is the main. Then he gives some kind of look back at the recent historical experiences, that Gandhi's vision of a new India as the world model of self-rule, that was sidelined and suppressed even during his lifetime. After independence, his successors gave short shrift to his constructive program, which Gandhi attached great importance, the constructive program of social reconstruction, of development of village-based democracy. And Gandhi's suggestion, clear suggestion to transform the Congress Party from the political organization into an army of volunteer social workers, the Sevadan. That was jettisoned by the new rulers, whose priority was consolidation of state power. political power. And also emulation of the colonial masters, the previous masters, in the task of modernization and westernization of Indian society. Then Rinpoche admits that Gandhian Sarvodaya workers who stayed outside the government and spread their networks among common people in the countryside have attempted to build foundations of, at the grassroots level of a new society based on truth and non-violence. But they could not hold their own against the dominant pull and influence of state power. So that instead of the society giving leadership to influencing government, it was the other way around. The present perspective, according to Rinpoche, is all proliferation of violence, both direct violence, expressed in warfare, terrorism, and all that, and also which is the main the motor, the driving power of economy based on arms in the industry. Is the most extensive part of economic activity, and it has violence as its justification and its power, great power. Then the systemic violence, which has been all the time there, it has also accelerated socio-economic inequality, exploitation, oppression, displacement in the name of environment. So all kinds of violence constitute the present world landscape of human reality. And then in response, in contrast to this, the vision for future. Rinpoche holds that in the face of the immense danger posed to the very survival of humanity and Earth, which is posed by the present political system, by the global political system, and its economic consequences. Is that political system is the driving force, and economic consequences follow. In this scenario, the road to survival can only be charted by devotees of Gandhiji. And there is no scope for any piecemeal solutions to particular problems. Gives an example like any law against corruption would be ineffective as long as the consumerist lifestyles have the general approval and official approval. And then casteism and communalism cannot be tackled by legislation as long as election-oriented politics is persist. he recalls the Jai Prakash call for total revolution. I find this is very apt for today, and it has to be understood in its entirety. The task of radical transformation of both state power and society, and this would require drafting of a new constitution. So here is that ideational exercise. How should the transformed society look like? And there are several headings like that which are of normative character. One is in the economy. There should be there is what I feel. I think in discussion it will come up, because those normative statements are on the level of the national polity, and it somehow does not tally with the assertion that all economy should be based based on Gandhi's ideas of trusteeship, and that's well known, the economy of permanence, and small is beautiful, and also the economy should be geared to local self-sufficiency. So that would be the building brick. It's not national plans of development, but local self-sufficiency, and principles of Sarvodaya should be adopted all along, and here again is that contradiction. All development projects should be evaluated by the standards of non-violence, eco-friendliness, sustainability, and beneficial impact on the poorest of the poor. Then the part is about the governance system.
उसको छोड़ सकते हैं अभी, क्योंकि this part was more important, not this. तो उसका conclusion अगर कुछ और हो तो
right. In this, the key points are that the system of elections and electoral campaigns and electoral should be completely banned, and elections would be by secret ballot, and starting from the village level, then for the intermediate up to the national parliament. No self-appointed candidates, and then under the federal structure will prevail, and then local and provincial assemblies would pass their own laws, like it is in America. And the central parliament will have minimal jurisdiction except in the matters of international relations. So similar normative prescriptions are for the judicial system, for protection of environment, which again there is a contradiction that there should be strict laws to prevent to protect water, forests and soil. Contradiction is here that if governance is devolved to the village then there is no need for centrally imposed environmental legislation. But this perhaps is about education, that Naitalim is the system which Gandhi, this is very important part of Gandhi's legacy, that has to be adopted throughout. And then there is a little para on national security, which, and then the steps towards implementation, which are perhaps in the tradition of Buddhist organization, it is visualized that there will be, first of all, there will be a countrywide process of consultation of those principles of transformation, and then leadership would be involved. Very small committee, 5 to 7 persons would be below 35 years of age and be totally committed, ready to die for the cause, and for the cause, of course, of peaceful transformation, and dedicated totally to this. And then there will be a larger advisory committee of experts, scholars, and so on to guide them. And for launching the proper movement, a few villages in every part of India, the most backward villages, would be chosen to as a laboratory of village-based democracy. So I think it's about all I hope mostly given justice to the contents.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anita ji. It's a tough task to summarize Rinpoche ji, but you have done it well. Hope he will also appreciate when he sees the draft. Now I want to have the sense of the house. I had promised tea at 3:30 and it's ready. And we have 3 more interventions. Subhash Lomte ji, Ajay Singh Mehta and Asit. So shall we have tea first and then come back? A quick tea, is that okay? Yeah, Ashish has come. So, चले या पहले भाषण देना अजय जी? चाय के लिए. Let's have tea first and try come as early as possible.
Don't be invited.